Hello guys,
My name is
Doli Alveni Panas Manjuntak,
Doris Egraf Tadeo Sumbiri.
Jimmy Frando Taputulung,
Jennifer Febiola Sitorus.
my student ID number is
71 2019 229.
71 2019 231.
71 2019 253.
71 2019 250.
Thank you.
Okay, now we from group 14 will presentation. The title of our presentation is Church, Family and Issues of Modernity, a Response. The definition of church and family. The church is a place to worship, fellowship, or a place to pray and a place to ritual for Catholic, Protestant, and others. And then family is a group of people who are connected by marriage, adaptation, and birth for creating and maintain a common culture, promote physical, mental, emotional, and social of the individuals who are in it can be seen from interdependent patterns of interaction to achieve common goals.
Now, modernity from Jack Balswick and downward. The first, Jack Balswick and Town have added a new dimension, our analysis of the family and the church in the context of modernity. The second, Jack Balswick and Downward remind us that a great deal of understanding can be gained from sociological models of analysis. And the third, the example is modernity with traditional peasant and tribal societies. But peasant village and tribes are highly diverse in the ways they organize societies and view economy activities.
For Waltz and Ward, modernity is the unique state of techno-social order that emerged in the West after the 16th century, and with it a new way of viewing and manipulating the world. What are the characteristics of this new order? Balswick and Ward draw widely from contemporary writers and provide us with a powerful model for the analysis of modernity. At the core, they point out is the rapid expansion of techno-economic system, the production of an ever more kind of commodity leads to increasingly specialist social roles and institutions. This world-ring emphasis Max Weber suggests the modernity emerges in part out of a shift in Christianity during the Reformation from an emphasis on the world beyond to this world. He states the notion of making money not as a means to satisfy material needs, but as a duty which derives from a calling and obligation toward one professional activity is mostly responsibility for the overcoming of the traditional economic mentality and for providing the economic foundation and justification to the capitalist mentality of the lower industrial middle classes and modern bourgeoisie. Out there, this emerged the religious, aesthetic, entrepreneurial personalities that accumulate the capital necessary to create industries and promote of rational capitalist organization of free mechanistic view of the world. Peter Berger argues that a second shift marking the rise of modernity is a shift from an organic to a mechanistic view of reality. Burch traces this shift in the road metaphor of Western culture in the emergence of the sciences. Physics in facts was first called mechanics. Berger's outlines the consequence of this in Western social organization. He argues that the hallmarks of modernity are the factory in which we manipulate nature mechanical and the burgery in which we order people as if they are mechanics. Along with a mechanistic view of reality comes conventionalism and specialization, universalization and standardization, and an emphasis on production and pluralism. Mary Douglas argues that another characteristic of modernity is cultural pluralism. The consequences of these are similar to those outlined by Barclay and Ward for the fragmentation of consequences in societies in which there is no single dominant worldview. Relevancy said it. People in traditional societies share common view of reality.
A theological critique of modernity. The church itself has become business. This church only applies to the modern world and pieces on commodities. Unfortunately, the church itself too often has become a business. An organization for the marketing of the gospel. It's organization with boards, budgets, bar and staff, job description, and management by goals inherently distinguishable from the other modern institution. Members become cooks in machine and convert part of growth church. A biblical theology calls us to see people as human beings, to give priority to relationship over material goods, to care for the poor, the marginal, and the fuelers too. Theological is not saying with reject social system and powerful. Reject social system that honor the rich and powerful, and that look at servant leadership, and to see ourselves as stewards of resources that belong to God and not us. Similarly, we must address theologically the extreme individualism and racism of modernity. Too often, Christianity itself is seen as an avenue to success, wealth, health, and the fulfillment of our own personal desires. The gospel, on the other hand, calls us to covenant commitments in which we deny ourselves as disciples of our Lord, and in which we minister to the needs of others. Critique specialization that has reduced ministries in the church. We must critique the specialization that has reduced ministries in the church to specialists and left the laity as spectator in the arena that has made the gospel a highly technical, abstract set of church detected from real life and understood only by professionals, and that has reduced the family to a holding pen because its central function, socialization, education, evangelism, and worship, have been delegated to other institutions. We need to balance the rationalization of theology with a sense of mystery and we before creation and its creator, and a commitment to descriptive and obedience. We must counter the split personalities and church specialization produced between private and public worlds, between the family and professionals institution, and between belief and practice. We need to return to the personal holism and congruency called for in the Bible. Give limit this worldly. We must limit this worldly emphasis of modernity by placing human history back into its cosmic framework. Only then will we gain a true perspective of material goods and human achievement. We must deal with the growing pluralism of modern societies, the pluralism of ethnic groups, social classes interesting in the same social arena, the pluralism of lifestyle, and the pluralism of belief system and worldviews. On the one hand, we must avoid the relativism that pluralism breeds. On the other, an implicit uncertainty in the church, we need to affirm biblical absolutes, while allowing for different from worship and expression. And we must counter the growing secularism of modernity that springs out of its pluralism and this worldly orientation. We must remind ourselves and the world of the cosmic agenda of sin.
The search of integration. In the recent years, considerable work has been done on a theory of complementarity. Increasingly, we are becoming aware that knowledge consists of maps or blueprints of reality. The papers in this conference are complementary in two ways. Namely, first, some articles are theological and others significant. The former provide us knowledge of God, His intention in creation, and His redemptive acts. Second, some articles are Pharisaic and others are theonic. The former seek to understand the understanding structures of reality, how these operate, and the functions they serve. The latter examine the true stories of reality. The two complement each other. We begin with specific experience in history, and from this we infer the basic structure of reality. For integration to take place, need to examine the ways in which this understanding of reality relate to each other from the biblical data and our scanners against observational data.
The relevance for human realities is the first. The principle of the incarnation challenge us not to cut ourselves off from the foreign, secular culture around us, not to become assimilated to it, but to accept the pain and the peril of entering it, of understanding its thought forms and learning its its language. The second, the child too needs to be called to tasks of critiquing its social and cultural context. And the last, the child needs to model conventional relationship as the basis in the family. It's a need to see the family as the foundation for worship, for their socialization into the Christian community. Until here, our presentation from Group 14 made it useful in